Those like to use Windows Defender as your primary security solution. And that is, well, the videos speak for themselves. But Windows Defender over the last few years has implemented a lot of really interesting zero-day features. But of course, being Microsoft, a lot of these interesting new security features that are quite good are completely inaccessible and useless unless you know some magic incantations. So in this video, that is exactly what we'll be talking about, starting with, of course, the attack surface reduction or ASR rules. Now, these are specific rules that you can enable inside Windows Defender to protect your computer from things like abusive vulnerable sign drivers, blocking Office applications from creating child processes. Like imagine you open a Word document and then boom, it starts a new ransomware process. You don't want that. Or credential stealing. So let's say an info stealer uses lsas.exe, which is a Microsoft process to dump all of your system credentials. Now, believe it or not, Windows Defender has the capability to block all of this behaviorally. But these are rules that have to be enabled manually, one by one, painstakingly. Otherwise, it's as if they don't exist. And that is why I want to talk about this tool, Attack Surface Configurator. Amazing work from Michael Hagg, who's also created a lot of other great configuration tools for Microsoft. So if you're into this stuff, definitely check out his page. But I'll be talking about this one in particular because what it allows you to do is generate a script that you can run in PowerShell, or you can just copy and paste it as a command to enable all of these capabilities inside Windows Defender. So let's say we want all of these, because who wants JavaScript or VB script from downloading executable content, or persistence through WMI, another Windows process, or creating process using psexec, which is what malware authors love to do. But of course, you might be more careful about things like block rebooting machine in safe mode. But say we wanted to enable all of these, all of the attack surface reduction rules. By the way, the reason disabling safe mode is a rule at all is because malware could use it to, in theory, disable Windows Defender or your security programs. But say we enable all of these. It gives us a very nice command. As you can tell, these rule IDs, this is what you need. Microsoft does like to make it difficult. Thanks to this tool, all you have to do is copy this whole script from here to here and paste it inside of PowerShell. As long as you have admin privileges, we can go into our system, open up terminal, make sure you have administrator. If you're starting this by yourself, go to terminal, right click, run as administrator. And once you've done that, you can pretty much paste the whole command as one thing and hit enter and boom. Now, the way you can kind of check is if you go ahead and type get-mp preference as shown on the screen, hit enter. Now you should have a full view of everything that's enabled and all your Windows Defender configurations. And if we take a look at the attack surface reduction rules, actions, it says 1111, that means enabled. Now, another way to do this thing, if you wanted to do it via the GUI instead of typing all of this inside of PowerShell, is by opening group policy. It is not very easy to do this in GPedit. And also, if you're running the home version of Windows, this may not be available. So we want to go into Windows Components, Windows Defender Exploit Guard, Exploit Protection. Oh, wait, actually, I think it is in Windows Defender Antivirus, and then Microsoft Defender Exploit Guard inside of that. You see what I mean about Microsoft making it as confusing as possible to use their products. But in here, as you can see, you have attack surface reduction. And if you take a look at the list here, it says configure attack surface reduction rules. You open this up, gives you a little GUI. Once you set enabled, it will give you a window where you can put in a value name and a value. Very intuitive, as you can tell. But basically, if you wanted to do it using the UI for whatever reason, you would have to go in and set each of these different IDs and set the value name as the rule name. So let's say copy and paste one of the IDs here and hit OK. And that's how you could configure it using the GUI if you wanted to. Now, while we're here, there's another setting that I think is very important and that you could use to massively reduce the attack surface, and that is using Microsoft's cloud feature. And they have something in here called block at first sight. Again, one thing Microsoft is good at is fancy names. So what this does basically is it allows you to block potentially malicious content or unknown executables from running on your system. If you set this to enabled, and hit apply. That should do it, as long as you have the join Microsoft Maps enabled as well. And you have two options here, basic or advanced. One thing to note about joining Microsoft's cloud program is that it of course means more telemetry, more data that you will be sending about every single application that you execute on your computer. So this might be okay if you're a home user and you just want the best protection, but obviously if you're in an environment where your privacy matters, you can't be sending all of the applications to Microsoft, then you may not want to join this. But even the basic version should be enough to use the capabilities that we're talking about. So if you want, do feel free to go ahead and join Microsoft Maps, hit OK. That is another major feature that is going to reduce your attack surface and reduce the amount of executables or potential malware that your computer might run. Now, moving on, another setting that is really crucial to your security is the ability to execute PowerShell scripts or not. Now, by default, Microsoft does have good protection on this. So it does not allow you to execute untrusted PowerShell scripts, but for whatever reason, you may have it set to something else. Some other program may have done it for you. So you want to go into your terminal again, go into administrator mode and get execution policy. Now, if it says something like remote signed, it may mean that it's turned on, which means your computer can now run a PowerShell script as if it's an application, which is great for ransomware because they can do the whole encryption process using PowerShell itself, and they don't need to download any additional malware on your computer. So in order to fix this, what you want to do is type in set execution policy and set it to default. And once this is done, whoops, little typo there, you want it to be set execution policy, not get execution policy. And once we do this, you should be good. And if we get execution policy again, as you can see, it says restricted. Of course, if you're an advanced system admin and you do use PowerShell scripts all the time to make changes to system configurations, you're not going to be able to use the security feature, but at that point, you know what you're doing. But honestly, looking at the threat landscape right now, the amount of times PowerShell is used by info stealers, ransomware, I would highly recommend restricting PowerShell scripts from executing. If you need it, turn it on, run whatever script you need to run, and then turn it off afterwards. Because you don't want your systems to just have that attack surface exposed for ransomware and info stealers to exploit at will. Now, another thing to note is if you do have the business version of Windows Defender, what they call Microsoft Defender for Endpoint, you might have a better GUI for some of these settings. So for example, for attack surface reduction rules, you're going to have a GUI like this, and you can set up audit mode, which allows you to monitor. And then you can configure your ASR using a fancy GUI like this and see the events that have taken place, look at the detections, feel good about it. But honestly, at the same time though, this UI is still a bit confusing. So I wouldn't be surprised if some of you have it misconfigured even in your business environments. So hopefully this video helps. Hopefully you make good use of the ASR configurator tool, which I will be leaving in the description of this video. What's great about this web page is it also gives you the ability to test specific rules. So if you want, you can run some of these scripts to test if the rules are working correctly for you. Now, a couple other options inside of Windows security that you should consider looking into are inside app and browser control. You have an option called Smart App Control, which you can turn on, but keep in mind, this is going to block a lot of untrusted apps. And it's another weird setting. Once you turn it on, you can't turn it off. And once you turn it off, you can't turn it on. Microsoft loves to play these games. I don't know why. But you also have reputation-based protection and phishing protection, which I highly recommend you use. You can also turn on potentially unwanted app blocking. Good for those PUPs, or pups as we like to call them. We security researchers have really cute names for dangerous things that will destroy your computer. But most importantly here, you want to go into ransomware protection and turn on controlled folder access. Windows Defender, its Achilles heel has always been letting ransomware do some encryption on your system, just a little bit for fun. And if you want to prevent that, at least for your most critical documents, you want to go ahead and set up protected folders in here and put in everything that's crucial to you. Now, the downside of including anything in here is you may have applications that fail to open or access or write to that folder. That might be a bit of a headache. But if you do have a folder where you have your critical data and it's not accessed that often, it is totally worth setting it up because this feature does work, and it's probably one of the most effective things that Windows has against ransomware. But at the same time, I'm going to caveat all of the advice in this video by saying that it only takes a couple commands, a couple settings to completely disable all of this protection. protection. So if the attackers are clever, they might be able to get around it. So do consider more comprehensive solutions if your security is really important. But I hope you find this useful, and do like and share this video if you enjoyed it. Another crucial thing, of course, when it comes to reducing your attack surface and keeping your system secure is not having out-of-date applications, vulnerable applications, old versions of Java, and we'll talk more about that. Now, one of the things I like to do when setting up these security tests is install a lot of vulnerable applications for malware to exploit, just to make it more fun. And this is a classic problem that a lot of organizations face, is having old and outdated software. I mean, this is Mozilla Firefox, but it could be legacy software that is not that well known. And if you're managing a lot of systems, it can be a pain to automate all of these updates. And the sponsor of today's video, Manage Engine, can help with that. They have a pretty holistic automation solution where you can manage all of your vulnerabilities, and it gives you a very good bird's eye view of what is important, what is critical, and then they have a very clearly labeled section as threats where you can see exactly what you might be vulnerable to. So for example, right at the top, we see CVE 2019, a vulnerability with a patch available. We've also got different sections for detected CVEs, and we can see exactly what these are. So for example, this is a DLL loading vulnerability. We can look for 0 days, high risk software, and this is a really good list. So it tells us software that's really badly outdated, for example, an old Adobe Reader, Java runtime, Python, and gives you a list of affected systems. So if we had dozens of systems, it would tell us how many systems are affected and allow us to take action. It can, of course, all be done automatically. You can do your patching, but you could also do a lot more. You could ban specific applications from being installed. You could deploy software specifically. They've even got a malware protection component and a whole lot of other features. So definitely check them out using link in description if you're managing a lot of systems. It might be the most efficient and cost-effective solution for you. And as you can tell, the UI is very good and easy to manage. Now do like and share this video if you enjoyed it. Once again, check out Manage Engine using link in description if it's interesting to you. Don't forget to subscribe. And of course, thank you all so much for watching. This is Leo, and as always, stay informed, stay secure.